So let's be able to continue with our disease classification lectures. It was actually cut short by network. So we last looked at the axis of the classifications, and we concluded with the functional axis. So we want to proceed to the purposes of medical data classifications. Why is the medical data classified? Why do we need to group the informations within the systems in relation to the disease classifications? Why do we need the specific data to be categorized within the specifications of the medical coding? Reason number one is to compile the morbidity and mortality statistics. We have talked about morbidity, we have talked about mortality, and the difference is that morbidity is the rate of illnesses and mortality is the rate of death. So the classified data is able to tell us the suppliers and the information users or decision makers the rates of the illness per specific disease and also the rate of mortality per specific disease. So if there are people who are there is a lot of high rate of infections of malaria in a certain area, and also there is a high rate of death of malaria or cholera in a certain area, a data which is classified is able to explain these rates and also enlightening the underlying causes of those death and also the underlying causes of those morbidity. Also, we use these informations to retrieve cases or groups of cases for medical educations and research. So there are varieties of needs when it comes to research. There is always demand for the older records, and retrieving or making a reference to medical information is very easy when the information was classified. So in such a way you understand exactly what you should be looking at, and you can be able to get them as fast as possible in terms of withdrawing for the use purpose. Allow me to do this to avoid interruptions. Right, so we also use this information to analyze diseases coming into the hospitals in order to plan out equipment and facilities. Of course, if we definitely able to understand the increasement of people falling or the incidences of individuals per disease, then we can make a proper planning. You may realize that the numbers of infections by certain disease is increasing, and therefore there is need in also of increasing in productions, also maybe in the supply of drugs, in equipment of the hospital, the like of beds. But if the information is not classified and is not being notified, probably it will be very difficult for you to realize that the number of the patients are actually increasing or the number of incidences are actually increasing. And talking about to compare the results of treatment between institutions and also between methods of treatment used. So I want to like we have agreed before, and as we've been doing, we actually focusing on the key areas that seem to be difficult to understand, and some of these things that I'm talking about here are actually direct, and I believe that you are smart enough to read that and understand, unless otherwise you still have the chances of questioning where you can drop the questions, and definitely I can be able to reply that. So what I'm sure that but of course now the purposes of medical data classifications and the purpose of coding and indexing are the same. Take note of that. When they ask you with the purpose of coding and indexing, and they also ask for the purpose of medical data classifications, is actually the same. It's actually the same. So I'm moving straight to explain something brief about the types of indexing. Yeah, we got two types of indexing. We have what we call simple indexing and also cross indexing. Now, what does it mean by the term indexing? First of all, term indexing is simply listing the informations or listings of names and other informations in either a piece of paper or maybe a card. Of course, as far as disease classification is concerned, we are supposed to be assigning a specific numbers or numbers to specific diseases onto the index cards that are available for the purposes that we have discussed above. So when you are indexing, it's just like when you are handling master patient index. There are some of the system that when you are using, you're supposed to make a cross reference to confirm like a number with when it's already available or not. So in this case, we have a system that need cross reference, and then we have a system that do not need the cross reference. So we have number one, a simple indexing, and we are saying that simple indexing, there is no need for cross reference on the cards because there is no any other entities that is involved, and we believe that the patient does not have any informations anywhere. So if a patient doesn't have any informations anywhere, there will always be no need to really make a cross reference because first of all, there is nowhere to make reference to. But then we have cross indexing. The cross indexing is the opposite of simple indexing. In this case, the reference is supposed to be made. Why? Because in most cases, a patient might have been seen in different departments with the different complaints, and different services has been given to such a patient, which means that there is need to refer and find out other codes that has already been given for certain diseases or problems and conditions, and operations and other procedures that has been performed in other departments, so that you can understand, because all of them are supposed to be brought together always in listing. So we are saying that cross-indexing of diseases and operations may be defined as listing on a card for a specific disease or operations entity with a cross-reference to another card which is with a different entity. So I've already explained that. All right, so we got some quick revision question right there, and you're going to look at it or try to answer them. Meanwhile, I will be able to send more, and I think I've already sent, I'm not so sure. But now I want to look at explain to you briefly about the structures of ICD-9 and ICD-10. But meanwhile, you take note that the current ICD that we are using is now ICD-11, because it came in ICD-10 9. I mean, it came in ICD-10. This is already 20 years backward. Because revisions of ICD is done after every 10 years. So if we go to ICD-10, that means we have spent ICD-9 ICD-10 has spent 10 years already. That's when we have in now ICD-11. So that is how it is. Now, this topic, this subheading looked at the structures of ICD-9 and ICD-10. So we are saying that there are two volumes in ICD-9 and ICD-10, and there is volume 1 and there is volume 2. Now we actually have up to volume 3, because the current ICD-10, the previous one, didn't have needed volume 3 in order to make the classifications possible. Now, what are these volumes and what are they used for? What are these volumes and what are they used for? We are saying that volume 1 is the classification itself with rules for its use, while volume 2 is an alphabetical index to the tubular list of volume 1. Now, the simple way to understand this is that what we are calling volumes are actually procedures in filings, in codings. Now, when we say volume one is like something that does not need any other person. Let's say someone who doesn't need anyone to rely, I mean, to really maybe to live their life. For example, let's say it's that a matured person like you right now, even when the parents are not there, you can survive. Even no matter what, as long as you have your jobs, you can do what, you can survive. But your child cannot survive without you. You get the point? So you are the volume one. You don't need anything to do whatever it is required perfectly. So volume one, it is itself, it has codes, and also in itself the guidelines. So you realize that it is a manual that have everything. And then volume 2 is just a user guide. So a user guide, is like a sorry, it's like a someone who have only spoon who have only spoon, but the plate is not his. Even the food inside the plate is not his. You get the point? So with the spoon alone, you can't start making noise. You can't start making noise, because if you make noise and the plate goes away, the plate is not yours. Of course, the plate will go with the food. Now that means you will remain with the spoon. What will you do with the spoon? You can eat nothing with the spoon. So the volume 2 is like a user guide. It's just a user guide that tells volume 1 that okay, you can do this, you can place this one here. But even volume 1 without that user guide, it can actually complete its work without that. So I've tried to explain it using people who need some people to live and people who don't need any. So you need someone to live. You need them always if you want something to happen. But that one that doesn't need anyone, it doesn't care. You get the point? So you should be the one that you should embed yourself there.